Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm an alcoholic.
Jeremy.
Despite what I may say, I truly believe that it's an honor and a privilege to lead any meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it's last minute or not. Because this fellowship has saved my life. It's given me a life. It's given me things that I didn't know that I wanted. You know, coming from a broken home and an angry childhood, it showed me these things, and it showed me why I did those things when I was out there getting loaded. It showed me why I acted the way I acted. It showed me why I treated people the way I treated them. You know, and it also showed me why I used people how I used them. You know, and I didn't know any of that until I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, to qualify for a little bit, you know, I was born into an alcoholic drug addict family. My father and my mother were alcoholic addicts. I grew up seeing my father abuse my mother physically, verbally, emotionally, pretty regularly. You know, there was 4 of us kids, including me. You know, and it was that, you know, constant geographic to what I know now was, you know, to try to do things differently here and there in different areas, you know, because maybe that area was the problem. You know, and you know, when you're kids having kids, which were my parents were, is they were dragging us kids around through all of this. You know, and by no means do I think that's why I'm an alcoholic. You know, I'm an alcoholic because I like the effects produced by alcohol or whatever I put in my body when I do it. And I can't not do it. You know, so I did that. And you know, so we grew up in Eagle Rock and Ontario and Oceanside. And I don't remember a whole lot of my childhoods. The moments I do remember are not great moments. You know, and I haven't tried to dig deep into that. You know, I just kind of let the past be the past. And I know today that my parents did the best that they could. I know today that my dad raised us as good as he could at the time that he was, you know, giving us kids. And he was 15 when he had his first kid, and last kid when he was 23, and my mom was 16. You know, so on and so forth. And you know, there was a time though that I do remember like it was yesterday, and that was the time that there was that knock on the door in Eagle Rock, and it was DCFS and the police department, and the neighbor didn't think that my parents were fit parents, so they were coming to take us kids away. You know, I was 5 years old. I was the kid that walked into my mom's bedroom. She was passed out on the bed. I had to wake her up and tell her that there were police in our house. And before she walked out of that bedroom, she cleared off that top dresser of all that paraphernalia. And that's the memory that I remember like it was yesterday. You know, not the birthdays, none of that stuff, because there wasn't that much going on. You know, and we were forced to live with my grandparents. You know, my grandparents, I grew up in, at that point in time, now I'm living in West Covina, and I was defiant from day one. You know, I was the kid before we were taken away, you know, being the dramatic queen, and I'm going to run away and packing a bag and doing all that type of stuff, and you know, and hoping that someone would come look for me, you know, and no one ever came look for me. You know, and I ended up back in that house, and you know, and everybody acted like it was nothing. You know, so when we moved in with my grandparents, now I'm in kindergarten, and my first fixation before I put drugs or alcohol in my body was women, girls at that age. I was chasing Brooke around the classroom in kindergarten, trying to kiss her, holding her hand, and that progressed through the years. You know, and I've always fixated on that. You know, and what I come to find out later is I was trying to fill that void. You know, that motherly love that I didn't have, I was filling it with all these other girls, women in my life. I didn't find that out until I got sober. You know, so that's a lot of wreckage that I picked up, and you know, and that's what I went through. And I did first drink at 13, 6-pack of Miller Red Dog at the time. I was hanging out with my uncle and his buddies, and you know, because I don't have a father in my life, so I'm looking for father figures. And the father figures were the homeboys in the neighborhood, and my uncle that's a tweaker, and you know, all his tweaker friends, and you know, it led me to drinking. Full-blown alcoholic at 15. You know, at this point in time, my mom's back, and we're living in West Covina, and she decides to buy a house in Fontana. You guys may be more familiar with Fontucky, like it's out east. And, you know, I mean, my people, I always told myself I was going to stay away from that crystal form of alcohol, and, you know, because I saw what it did to my family, and then I found it. Because it allowed me to drink longer and do more other things. And I was trying to get away from that out here, and I figured I'm going to go to Fontana and get away from all that, and man, yeah, whoops, I was wrong. You know, and I mean, it didn't matter where I was going to go. I was going to find my people no matter what. You know, you look for the light on in the garage all hours of the night with the holes drilled in the garage door. Like, you know where your people are. And that's where I was. Mind you, I'm 20 years old, full-blown alcoholic, drug addict. Had a job with the LA County Sanitation District, kick-ass job. They didn't give me time off to go to the river with some girls. I quit that job, and this is a spiral. And yeah, that's the one that I think about, like, to this day. Like, I was 20, I'm 40 now. Like, damn, I'd be more important, pussy and alcohol. You know, and that's what's ruled my life. And, you know, to cut it short, I ended up back in San Diego, fell apart, turned 21 down there. I went down for the weekend with my sister, and she told me, you know, she didn't want me to move in. I moved in, and, you know, it fell apart. I turned 21 down there, and I ended up in the hospital that night. And I picked a fight with some people. I was on crutches from that incident at another bar 2 days later into another fight, and my sister said, that's it, it's enough. So I had to go back to Fontana, and that dad that I didn't have in my life, that was like I call him the holiday father, because he wasn't around. He got sober when I was 15 years old, and I have no recollection of it still to this day. My siblings do, but I always knew that man would put me to work when I needed to go to work. You know, when I needed to make some money. So when I got back to Fontana after that San Diego trip, I called him up, and he said, no problem, man, come on out. So I came out to Glendale, and I'm working during the week, and I'm going home to Fontana on the weekends. And mind you, this is at the end, you know, so I'm drinking that Carlos Arasi Sangria, the $1.99 charcoal filtered Barton vodka, the nasty shit, and some rocked up form of alcohol. And I found myself in the back of a closet by myself doing those things Thanksgiving weekend of 2003. And you know how the story ends, man. It was just me and nothing. And I'm feeling horrible. But I wasn't really ready to quit. I didn't think God had other plans for me, I'll tell you that, because that Sunday after Thanksgiving, my dad called me up to ask me if I was going to come to work. And what came out of my mouth was, I did it one more time and I needed help. That was not my plans, man. The book talks about deep down every man, woman, child, there's that fundamental idea of God. And I truly, truly believe that was God working in my life that day. You know, I believe that my dad was praying for me at every meeting that he had attended for the first 5 years of him coming there, and that got me to that place that day. And you could tell, like, he was waiting for that day, and he said, oh, cool, man, pack a bag, I'll see you tomorrow morning. And I packed a bag, and the next morning, I'll tell you, I was definitely singing a different tune. It wasn't that bad if I just don't do this. And he didn't talk to me about it all day, you know, and it was on the way home. For the first time in my life, someone identified with the way I drank, and it was my dad. It was the man that I didn't have a relationship with. It was the man that I wanted a relationship with all my life. And he's identifying with the way I drank. And he brought me to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous on December 1st of 2003. I haven't found it necessary to take a drink or use since then. There's been a lot of no matter what. I was 21 years old, scared, hopeless, and broken. I showed up to my dad's house with a duffel bag and nothing in there. Nothing going on in my life. And I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I would love to tell you that I jumped into the work, and absolutely not. I'm 21. I couldn't relate to anybody. I'm looking at a room full of 40, 50-year-old guys. I'm 21. How am I going to not do this, man? And I was too busy looking at the differences and not listening to the similarities. Because I drank just like they all drank. I just did it, you know, in a shorter amount of time and a lot earlier age. You know, and the only thing they didn't do is they didn't kick me out, man. They told me that to just keep coming back, kid. And it was about 2.5 weeks before I raised my hand as an alcoholic. And I still didn't get into the work thing. I ran to exactly what I knew how to do, and that was the women, man. And I chased the women, and I fixed on the women for the first 18 months of my sobriety. Until I hit that bottom that was in sobriety that was worse than the ones that got me into the rooms. And I didn't know why. Because I was not armed with any facts about myself. I hadn't opened that book. That book was still on that bookshelf after my appointed sponsor had given it to me. And of course it was after the relationship went south, the one. She was the one that I was going to be madly in love with forever, that newcomer mentality. It was fucking insane. She was psychotic. And that's probably why I loved her. Like, that was crazier the better, man. Sex is good, but the attitude is fucking wild. I know you do. And it forced me to get into the work, man. And I got into the work, and I started finding out these facts for myself that I didn't like. I didn't like it. That I'm needy, selfish, self-centered, big ego, low self-esteem. All the shit you hear all the time, like, I just thought I was different. Until I realized I wasn't different. And I did the steps with my new sponsor that I had gotten, and and I went on the sobriety journey, and I could tell you that the promises have come true. I did the work, and God presented me with a woman in my life that I've been married to for almost 15 years now. This meeting saved that marriage. I've been coming to this meeting off and on since 2007. And when we were trying to have kids, I was not wanting to be married and not wanting to be faithful. And I would come to this meeting when it was back in that little room, and I would dump it. I don't have a problem dumping what's going on with my life. It's freeing for me. And this meeting, Patch, Tom, there's a bunch of guys in this meeting that aren't here tonight, that helped me, carried me, and talked me through that. And I still ended up doing some dumb shit. At 10 years of sobriety, I almost blew up that marriage and everything behind it. 2 kids, sobriety. It was the first time in my life that I felt like taking a drink. At 10 years of sobriety, because I did some text messages with some girl that my wife found out, and the thought of me not being able to wake up and see my kids every morning fucking crushed me. And the only thing I did perfectly that day was I picked up that phone, I called that sponsor, and I got into the work. My sobriety has been like a series of surrenders, time and time again, throwing up my hands. All right, God, what am I going to do now? Because it's up to me. If you want what we have, you got to do what we do. You got to put in the work. Like, that's bottom line, is what it is. And I put in the work, and sometimes I get tired of putting in the work, and and I don't know how long it's been, but I'll wrap up here. And life is good. The dad is my best friend. He's my business partner. He's my rock. I'm with him every goddamn day of my life, like almost too much, But then it's like when I'm not with him, it's like, I miss him. Kind of. And if there's some guys in here that know my dad. He's fucking crazy, but he's my dad, and and I have that wife that we've been married, for 15 years now, and I have a 12-year-old daughter. That's my light. She's everything. I know. She's 12. Yeah. And then I have a 9-year-old little girl. I wanted girls. I didn't want a boy. I didn't want me. But then I didn't realize that I just have girls that are me. And I don't know if that's any better. Yeah, I think it's worse too. And anyways, I'm doing my best as raising those kids. And I will tell you right now, I've given those kids the life that I wanted growing up with parents. I'm at every school function. I don't care how big, how small, I am there. I'm on the school board of their school. I'm a voting member. We get to decide on things. We get to do the fundraisers. We get to do the activities. That is me. Keys to the school, this guy. Crackhead, alcoholic tweaker. Like, if they only knew. I couldn't have done it without you guys. And this last week, my wife had sat me down because, I was being Jeremy again. I was being an asshole. And she told me that I don't listen to her. And mind you, I thought I was listening to her. Like her talking and me looking forward for me, is listening. And I was perfectly fine with it until she did those one words, man. Like, it hurts my feelings when you do this. Fucking wrecked me, man. Because I know how hard it is for me to say those words to her. Talking about swallowing that ego. There's nothing more than I hate to talk to my wife when I go, it makes me feel like this when you do that. That's being real. So I've talked to her all weekend, and I've asked her how her meetings are, and I've asked her how her day was, and it seems to be all right. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but clearly it was to her. I'm still learning. 19 years of sobriety. I don't know how to do this shit. I talk about it at a meeting. Some guys tell me, man, just listen. Okay, well then that's what I'm going to do. I want to welcome the new guys and tell you guys that you don't have to drink again, even if you want to. That's what was told to me when I came in here. Even if you want to. And happy birthday, Dave and John. It's awesome, man. Good deal. And remember, the seeds of discouragement cannot take root in a grateful heart. Thanks for letting me share.